Good morning, everybody. I'm Barry with BearIndependent.com, and we're going to do the brief and intel from the Bear Nation today. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. You are going to need this information to navigate what comes next in this crazy, stupid world. If you're not new here, go ahead and share this with people you think need to see it. Bear Independent Brief, 24 June 22. Congress may be about to pass, quote, the most significant piece of anti-gun violence legislation in 30 years, end quote, in the words of Senator Chris Murphy. The federal gun bill in question does not contain assault weapons restrictions or universal background checks. However, it would put over $250 million into mental health services, suicide prevention, and community violence intervention, and it does aim to close the air quote boyfriend loophole, which is horsepucky. Jared from Guns and Gadgets, by the way, excellent guy, met him in person a couple of times, good dude, has done an excellent job, as usual, reporting on all of this. And so if you want to stay truly up to date on all of this, you should go check out Guns and Gadgets like on the regular. The reason I bring that up is the boyfriend loophole. He's got a very good video on why that's nonsense. And it incentivizes states to enact red flag laws. It would also expand federal background checks and the waiting period for gun purchases for those under 21 years of age. Tuesday evening's procedural Senate vote rapidly passed 64 to 34. The head negotiators for the bill, both Republican and Democrat, and so I've been telling y'all for a long time, if you're one of those people that votes Republican because conservatism, they're not conservatives, bro. They are both, they're two different wings of the same shitty bird. So, there's no real difference between political parties at this point, in my opinion. The head negotiators for the bill, both Republican and Democrat, released a joint statement, quote, today, we finalized bipartisan common-sense legislation to protect America's children, keep our schools safe, and reduce the threat of violence across our country. Our legislation will save lives and will not infringe on any law-abiding Americans' Second Amendment rights. We look forward to earning broad bipartisan support and passing our common-sense legislation into law, end quote. Yeah, asterisk, caveat. You see the most recent Supreme Court ruling? Tremendous. We'll just leave it at that for now. Tremendous. We'll probably be talking more about that next week. It is believed the House will oppose the bill, and at the time of this writing, reports are just emerging that the House has begun tearing the legislation apart. Steve Scalise said, quote, we're pushing reform in the mental health system. We shouldn't be taking away or infringing upon the rights of law-abiding citizens to own a gun, end quote. Representative Thomas Massey said, quote, we did not anticipate that we will be playing defense against the Republican senators on preserving the Second Amendment, end quote. They don't care about you. They are in league with them. They look out for them. How do you make $160,000 a year salary and have tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, in personal wealth? It's a game of power. They're not there for you. Representative Republic, no more, says me. Don't want to jump into that rabbit hole this morning either. We have a lot of ground to cover with intel. So, the federal government isn't the only one starting to dip its toe into the gun control kiddie pool. States have begun acting after the shootings in Buffalo and Uvalde. New York has raised the age for buying semi-automatic rifles to 21, intensified its red flag law, and banned body armor for most. Interestingly, the red flag law that was already in place did absolutely nothing to stop the Buffalo shooter, who the FBI was well aware of. Also, I don't know where I set my coffee. Tragedy. Delaware is set to ban assault-style semi-automatic rifles. Assault-style. I can assault you with a 30-30 lever action if I feel like it. Delaware is set to ban assault-style semi-automatic rifles and limit magazine capacities, and Washington State has already passed a law to limit magazine capacities at 10 rounds. And there's a bunch of links on Patreon for this brief this morning. If you're on Patreon, you'll find those, as well as the full write-up of the intel and pics of intelligence that has been set in from around the nation, the Bear Nation. There's a link in the description of every video that helps us do what we do. YouTube doesn't like us. We don't really like them back very much. And so Patreon is an excellent way to support the show, and it's not an I love me, you should love me too page. There's 2,500 exclusive pieces of content there. There's more content on Patreon than there is on YouTube at our channel. Now, intel for Bear Independent. If you have intel you want to share with us, with our research team, who we affectionately refer to as the Dance Monkeys, you send your intel to intel@bearindependent.com. If you can't spell bearindependent.com, you have magically self-selected yourself out of the ability to provide intel. So there's a bar. It's a low one, but there's a bar you need to be able to jump over in order to be able to provide intel. Additionally, intel is not read this article, click this link, watch this video. Intel is something you have seen with your own eyes or heard with your own ears. Okay? That's what we're looking for at intel@bearindependent.com. Huge shout out to the Dance Monkeys, because without them, we wouldn't be able to do this. And a huge shout out to y'all, because without y'all, we wouldn't be able to do this either. From Bear Nation, for Bear Nation. That's y'all. Here's some valuable intel that didn't make it into the briefs over the past week for the sake of time. Medical. I'm a PA, physician's assistant, in one of the busiest emergency departments in Arizona. About 2 weeks ago, we got an email from our director stating IV contrast for CT scans was available and to use it per usual protocols. 2 days ago, we received another email stating scheduled delivery of contrast was delayed and we no longer have an adequate supply. Lidocaine is so short that it is being hoarded in the inpatient pharmacy. If I'm lucky, I can have it in my hand about an hour after ordering it in the computer and then calling the pharmacy. I'm starting to see a trend of newly homeless patients. Not junkies, still clean, but living in their cars or sleeping in shelters. Their desperation is easy to see. Additionally, these people are still working. They are being exposed to parasites and illnesses associated with the chronically homeless and potentially bringing it into their workplace. End quote. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Next, and these are all quotes. I'm not going to say quote 1,000 times because there's a lot here. Next, as a veterinarian, I've been waiting over 6 months on basic penicillin on back order. I can get most of the more expensive antibiotics. I'm not suggesting this, but because of the way FDA bases expiration dates, per when I worked for a pharmaceutical company in Fort Dodge, you might, as a non-medical professional, you don't have the liability, suggest that pharmaceutical products may or may not be good for 10 years after the expiration date. So I can't legally suggest keeping them, but I'm not throwing out mine. And I will unequivocally encourage stocking up on anything deemed necessary to you and your animals. Also, rumors from colleagues in FDA that more classes of pharmaceuticals will be restricted soon. Stock up and make friends with like-minded veterinarians and physicians. Yeah, that's a good word right there. Next, my wife received an email today from her nursing manager here in California that there is a critical shortage of the drugs used to compound epidurals used in labor and delivery. They were literally down to only 5 in stock and don't expect an improvement until late 2023. They have asked the pharmacists to change the compound using a different compound that will not be as strong to stretch out the current supply. Next, I'm a nurse practitioner in an emergency department in a medium-sized hospital in southern Illinois. We have been overwhelmed with very sick people. Not much COVID, but a very sick population. Our numbers are through the roof. I have been in the ED for over a decade, and I am taken aback by the sheer volume. My intel is not only that the volume is up, but most importantly, the pediatric volume is up since the pre-vaccine stats. In 2020, pediatric volume was 144 in May, and this year the pediatric volume was 338 in May. 250% increase. My colleagues and I basically got a cease and desist letter from our governing bodies, the State Board of Nursing and my physician counterparts from the state boards and national boards, or ED physicians, to not speak out against any Charlie Victor 19 related issues, or we would lose our license to practice medicine. Also received letters telling us that we're at risk of losing the same if we used ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine instead of the approved CV19 treatments that don't work. Moreover, the big pharmacy chains refuse to fill the valid prescriptions for ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine when those of us with the balls to write them do write for them. Syntax, Bear Nation. Love y'all, but syntax. We have to call the small mom and pop type pharmacies and they will typically fill them for the patients. Next, I work for a fire department in Virginia. We have taken delivery of several new emergency vehicles that we cannot put in service for their intended use. For the past 3 months that we've had these vehicles, we've been unable to install necessary equipment such as emergency lighting, sirens, and radios. These items were ordered months before we took delivery of the trucks, and we are still waiting. Hence, we are unable to get these vehicles licensed by the State Office of Emergency Medical Services, which is the pre-hospital medical regulatory body, so that we can go to work with these required items. Supply chain. It affects everybody. By the way, if you are into preparedness, medical preparedness, super important. Refuge Medical is my company. We make the best first aid kits on the planet. If you don't have one, you should get one. If you have one, you should maybe get another one. Police officers aren't driving their cruisers and responding to calls because they don't have the budget for fuel. And let's be frank, a lot of the best officers have already walked off the job because they are not ideologically aligned with their departments because of the shenanigans that have been happening for the last 2.5 or 3 years. Ambulances. They're out of Versed and other basic medical equipment and medicines. Their staffing is down. Their budgets are down. Their operating costs are up. They can't keep the bus stocked. All this to say, they're not coming for you. Get that out of your head. You are the first responder. Personal responsibility, right? Personal responsibility. Well, if you're into preparedness, why are you still farming out that portion of your life to the government? All you anti-government people out there. Stock up while you can. RefugeMedical.com. Your promo code is BEARNATION for free shipping on everything in the store. Next, I'm a case management nurse for low-income disabled Medicaid recipients. We pay caregivers to provide home care to people to keep them out of hospitals or nursing homes. Because we're in a rural area, these caregivers often have to drive long distances to provide that care. Due to the cost of fuel when measured against the pay we give them, many are deciding to end their employment, which means the people dependent on them for basic things like bathing, medication administration, and meal preparation are now going without. It is a life and death outcome for some. Nursing homes are critically understaffed. Skilled nursing agencies can't find help. The 2 large healthcare systems in this area are working with skeleton crews in their laundry, housekeeping, and dietary departments because the wages they receive do not keep pace with the cost to put gas in their cars to go to work. People are just deciding to stay home. It is not a great time to require medical care in the Badger State, and I assume nationwide. Rome is burning, my brothers and sisters. Rome is burning. If you have not adjusted your OODA loop yet, there, let it be adjusted. Next, I'm a paramedic in the most dangerous county in California. I just wanted to give everyone a heads up. When you call 911, just know that we are out of a lot of the most basic stuff for pre-hospital life-saving care. We are having to MacGyver things in order to keep people alive because of a supply shortage. By the way, if it says it's in stock at Refuge Medical, it's in stock, it's under our roof, and it will ship to you. And we, so that we're all clear here, are also, to the best of our ability, any ambulance corps, pre-hospital care company, anything like that that reaches out to us, we try and keep them stocked as well. It's a battle. It is a battle, bro. I have 2.5 people working full-time just to keep stuff in stock. Just to keep things under the roof so we can ship them back out to you again. It started about a year ago, and we have, quote, no estimated date, end quote, for a supply return. We are out of basic IV supplies, preloads of epinephrine, preloads of antiarrhythmic medications, quick clot, chest seals, dextrose, etc. We are a small community as first responders, and we all talk. I can tell you this is not just my city. Our supplies are being bought up by the military before we can get our orders in. That is 100% true. Defense Logistics Agency buying up everything they can get. Germany just approved a 100 billion euro expansion of its ground forces. That's going to be a lot more soldiers for the Bundeswehr. A lot more. And guess what? Every one of them is going to be buying IFACs. With chest seals, and quick clot, and pressure bandages, and tourniquets. DLA, Defense Logistics Agency, is buying that stuff up literally by the pallet load, by the semi-load, by the container cargo ship load. Militaries and agencies and organizations around the world are bracing for war. What should you be doing? Food. I live in Ohio. My neighbor has been a camper salesman in Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, tri-state area for many years. I asked him how business was, and he said it has hit a brick wall. Ever since interest rates and fuel have increased, we've seen a 40% decrease in sales. Another neighbor is a farmer and has been his entire 65 years. I live in farm country, by the way. He told me the last time he checked anhydrous ammonium was $1,400 a ton. It used to be $600 a ton. Plenty of crops being planted here in Ohio, and everyone seems to be fertilizing as they normally would. Not much winter wheat as I'm used to seeing, though. I'm hearing many reports from people saying they're seeing cornfields that aren't even tilled or planted. Most likely they have been planted, and they just cannot see the beans emerging. They can be hard to see at the early stages, yada yada yada. Around here, watershed to Lake Erie is a big deal. I'm an over-the-road truck driver. This is next. In the past week or two, I've been from Kansas City to Albany. Most crops are in and coming up nicely. The problem is that some of the fields in northern Ohio and Indiana are flooded due to the amount of rain they received. This is also true in parts of Wisconsin and Illinois. I've also seen troop movements, convoys here and there. It's summertime, so I figure it's normal. It is. They're training. We've seen them too. When they have coaxials mounted to their vehicles, then you can be concerned. They don't. So, I hate to disabuse you of all your prepper fantasies, but when things get stupid, they're not going to drive around in convoys in broad daylight for you to see them out on the highway so that they can come and oppress you. That's like the worst tactics ever. Okay? So, keep it in your pants, homeboy. Security. For the past 4 to 5 weeks now, my military unit plus others have been doing operations and training that we normally haven't done in almost 10 years. And some operations that our command hasn't done since Vietnam, like going up and down rivers, riverine operations, and finding and shooting targets and practicing landing helos on makeshift rafts. Interesting. Do we know any littoral regions where there's potential conflict? What do you think, Twitch? You ever heard of a place called Southeast Asia?
Once or twice. Huh?
Yeah, I think we've been there once or twice, or since 1953. Interesting. Let's see. In an all-hands call, they have straight up said that we are sending some of our older military boats and weapons over to Romania to be staged before possible military operations as well there, and we're sending some random islands at the military controls into the South China Sea. And we are sending some 2 random islands at the military controls in the South China Sea. Syntax Bear Nation. So, intel. I live outside Albuquerque, New Mexico, an area where road rage and violence are more frequent than in most places, but have become less of an issue after 2011. Since the focus has increased on violence and road rage, I have not experienced anything more than self-absorbed or jerk drivers. However, in the last 6 months, I have personally experienced 2 road rage incidents. In the last incident, the other driver tried to cause an accident multiple times and came to a complete stop on a freeway twice. He nearly got out of his car before peeling off and then trying an additional surprise lane changes, then to spit something at my car from his. Police are investigating, but the renewed increase in road rage incidents is certainly an indicator for me that angry people in the city are feeling, of the anger that people in the city are feeling, is beginning to reach a boiling point. Our OODA loop has adjusted to this new level of violence, and we are starting protocols for in-town errands that I never really believed we would have to enact. It's an adjustment, all right. Something to think about. I think, depending on where you live, your population density, and what the situation is around you, by the way, do an area study, and then update it, and then update it again, and then update it again. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Maybe you don't go to town by yourself anymore. That might be something to think about. Next, gas prices in the area are fluctuating between $5.10 and $5.39 as of 6/22. I've also been seeing people post on Facebook about a gas strike. They're calling for people to not purchase gas July 2nd through the 5th. Not sure what will come of this. Several groups of people have been down at the main intersection in our town protesting various causes. The last one a couple of weeks ago was a pro-abortion protest. About 30 people with signs making a ruckus. Next, I live about a mile directly in the landing path of Naval Air Station JRB in Fort Worth. There has been an enormous amount of activity here in the last week. We've gone from a few landings a week of various sizes and types of planes to an almost constant barrage of overhead traffic. That in of itself is not surprising, or the actual issue. It's just outside of the normal behavior pattern. What is the difference between the 2 weeks ago and today is the types, frequency, engine noise, and heights where they are running. We've had B-52s going over in maneuvers so low I could literally stand in my front yard and photograph the tail numbers. They are all carrying full complements of equipment under their wings. In the past, they were just flying high and not loaded. Fighter jets are in constant scramble and conducting maneuvers rivaling the Blue Angels. That said, we also now have helicopters of various types, both military medical, and private care flight medical choppers landing and taking off in rapid succession, very low overhead. Touch and goes are being run heavily with all equipment types during both night and day. This has only happened about once every 3 months and only in daytime during all the 20 years that we lived here. If your car breaks down near the perimeter, it no longer is a matter of calling AAA. You can expect immediate MP response. This has rarely happened unless suspicious activity is reported by a local PD. This may not be of any consequence, but our neighborhoods are scared due to the increase in low-flying activity. Get out. Get out of that damn neighborhood. The opportunity for that is shrinking. Your dollar is worth less and less every day. More and more people are fleeing from the built-up areas. The time that it's going to take for you to procure the things that you need to be able to set yourself up in a lower population density area, that's going away as well because of the lack of ability to procure necessary items. So for all of y'all who have been sitting on the fence, go now, like today. Just throw your shit in a U-Haul and leave. Or you're going to have to deal with a whole bunch of stuff because I think it's going to become prohibitive, damn near impossible for you to get out and be effective when you land out in the rural areas like this. In SoCal, on the outskirts of the LA toilet bowl, there have been multiple signs going up on overpasses that read something to the effect of, "We need a revolution, kill the rich." Oh, that's nice. Rome burning. Quote, I work for a nuclear power company here in Illinois. During one of the all-hands call sites, leadership cited the coming black and brownouts, and we now have to remain online to help mitigate the risk. They stated that they expect we will need to send power from our grid to help the rest of the grid if the non-nuke grid went down. Shortly after that, we had a grid red announcement due to high heat. I've been at my site for over 10 years, and this was the first time that I've seen this. Next, I work at one of the largest steel and metal distributors in the eastern U.S. I work in the steel cutting department. Normally, for years, we would have 100 to 150 orders when I walk in at 6 a.m. The last month, we have had no more than 42, with the average being around 20. The steel industry is slowing quickly. Next, left Richmond, Virginia on Wednesday to go to a family funeral in West Virginia near Somerville. Normally, I might see maybe one 18-wheeler on the side of the road. This trip, at least 6 or so on the side of the road with mechanical issues, both coming and going. As a bonus, that trip cost me $200 in fuel. Next, I work under the Railroad Commission as a utility locator, and the need for more employees are desperately needed, along with new equipment, and paint and flags are in very short supply. So much essential communication lines such as fiber optics and copper lines, including electric lines and gas lines, are being damaged due to not being able to keep up with contractors as soon as they get their supplies. Supply chain. My husband, not my husband, the person who wrote in, because I don't have a husband, because that'd be an abomination. Yeah, read the book, do what it says. This person's husband works for the major East Coast distribution center hub. He used to work second shift and had to switch to first because by the time he got there, they had hardly any work left. They completely stopped all overtime months ago, when last year they had mandatory overtime on weekends. They were regularly short by 15 to 20,000 tons of product per shift. Mind you, he worked in the food department. They usually have around 90,000 tons of food to move. Today they only had 72. He says the shelves of the distribution center are near bare in a lot of places. Next, I work in the glass industry, and our glass supplier just announced a 30 to 50% increase in raw materials. I'm not entirely sure how strategic glass is. Well, as an example, thanks DOT, if you have a cracked windshield, that truck's not going to run because DOT stuff. If you can't replace it, that semi is going to sit there and not run, which is going to further exacerbate the supply chain issues. I was talking with a gentleman in the Bear Nation about that in Tennessee when we were out there at SOE Tactical. So, major implications, actually, for the glass industry. I work in the glass industry, and our glass supplier just announced a 30 to 50% increase in raw materials costs. I'm not entirely sure how strategic glass is necessary because it may be yet another indicator of price increases across a broader economy. This comes after 2 to 3 increases at 10 to 20% each over the last 18 months. I think this price hike is largely tied to the transportation costs relating to the price of diesel. Next, I've been running a la carte department in the grocery store in northern Maine for the last 8 years. I deal with fresh and frozen chicken, sandwiches, wings, etc. When I order my product, I either can't get it for 2 to 4 weeks, or when it does come, it is substituted with a different brand, or it is 50% less than what I ordered and we have to cut back massively. My prices have jumped 100 to 300%, depending on what it is, and about half the product I get in, the goodbye date has been shortened by 4 to 7 days. The product used to be good for 2 to 3 weeks, and now it lasts only 1 to 2 weeks. It is only getting worse every week I talk to vendors. I go in at 4 a.m. every day, so I get to chat with them quite frequently. And with gas going, managers are worried about losing young workers because they cannot afford to drive. We also were told that corporate is holding off on raising prices as long as possible because they don't want to scare customers, but eventually the dam will break, and it's coming soon. Please buy what you need now and don't wait. That's a good word from this person. Next, I'm in the automotive repair industry. We are seeing delays in almost all parts needed to repair vehicles. Tires seem to be one of the biggest things we cannot get a hold of. Bear Nation, check your tires, and if they need replacing, look at getting them now. Next, I work for a saltwater hauling company in Louisiana. We used to haul the saltwater off natural gas production wells. I run the maintenance shop. I have had 20 new trucks, Volvos, on order since June of last year. I have received 3 due to not being able to get chips. I'm also having issues getting tires from our supplier, Southern Tire Mart. I cannot get retreads because their facility was cyber attacked. So now I am buying cheap Chinese trash tires just to stay running. Brake drums are also really hard to get and have skyrocketed in price. No brakes or tires, and my trucks can't run. Freon for AC went from $100 for a 30-pound can a year ago to $400. We also run the disposal for the salt water. We filter the water and pump it back into the ground. The state has just put a restriction on how fast we can pump in the ground, which has slowed us down. If we can unload the water, we can't pull any more off the wells. I think you meant can't, sir. If the well gets full of water, they shut it in and stop producing natural gas. I work for a fire department in Northeast Florida. We haven't had any supply shortages, praise Yah. However, we have had to alter our protocol for glucose administration due to concerns about shortages. However, we are having problems getting parts in our various trucks, our engines, our tankers, our ladders, our rescue trucks, when said parts break. The decline of the American empire. Pay attention, Bear Nation. Adjust your OODA loop. This shit is real. Oh, yeah, the fire department will come get it. No, they can't run their trucks, bro. The trucks aren't moving. I'm an officer in charge of a rescue, and our AC went down the other day with an unknown downtime. Domestically, just like everyone else, we're seeing shortages of various goods and produce, and prices are steadily creeping upwards. I do the majority of the shopping for the family, and along with the shortages, it seems like whenever deliveries come in, they go straight onto the shelving, meaning there is zero stock being held in the back in the stores. I work at a cement terminal, and we deal with nothing but dry Portland cement, 82% of which is produced in China. The last time I checked, I know a thing or two. I put over 1 million yards of concrete into the ground doing wind turbines. So, supply chain, anybody? I work at a cement terminal, and we deal with nothing but dry Portland cement. We have been rationing cement now to our customers for about 2 months. They say that it is nationwide, not just this company, and I personally have heard that as well. We had a finish mill go down for a while, not allowing us to produce cement at full capacity, which did not help. They had to repair the old one because the new mills are made in China, and the lead time on one is ridiculous. Our tanker drivers informed us that the local power plant that they had to get fly ash from, fly ash, by the way, is a byproduct of burning coal. And it's used as an additive for mobility in the mix, fluidity. It's I don't want to get into the rabbit holes there, but fluidized thermal backfill, flow fill, all of that's made with a high amount of fly ash. Our tanker drivers informed us that the local power plant that they get fly ash from just shut its doors for good because of emissions laws, and many people lost their job. Next, I work for a large trucking company. We're having major issues with our oil pan gaskets in our 2019 to 2020 Freightliner Cascadia trucks. We went through several dealerships to acquire a few of the bolts needed. I personally went to a dealership in Jackson, Tennessee to pick up an order. They only had 26 to spare, and that's what I picked up. Once I arrived back at the terminal, there were 3 other bags of similar size. This will be about enough bolts to fix maybe 5 trucks. 5 out of our 40 at the terminal. We have about 150 to 200 trucks total. This will be a long, dragged-out process, and if we can't find the bolts we need, we may be forced to shut down the trucks to prevent catastrophic damage. We're just one company out of thousands who operate the same make and model trucks. If we're in this predicament, you know they are too. Next, I work for a relatively small company with 4 branches in 3 states. We manufacture and supply lifting and rigging equipment to everyone from farmers and industrial contractors to the military. We have countless items that have been on order since the end of last year. One of the things we're having major issues getting is lift grade chain for making overhead lifting. Grade 100, grade 120, big black chain. It's awesome. I own a bunch of it because I guess in my head I still think at some point I might need to lift a wind turbine or something. Because you buy something like that and it's like you can't just like give this away. You don't throw it away. You just keep it because it's badass. Right, Code? Right. One of the things we're having a major issue with getting is lift grade chain for making overhead lifting rated chain slings. We deal with quite a few manufacturers and all of them are giving the same story on certain sizes. They don't have any to give, nor do they have any idea when they'll be able to fill any more orders. They claim they can order new raw materials. 2 to 3 months later, their order will arrive and it'll be the wrong size. They don't turn it down though because they are struggling to get anything. And that's really interesting. That's an occupational safety hazard issue because chain slings, any type of rigging, there's a high amount of specificity required with that because otherwise it'll break and people die. And so so let's say you order, we'll use something small. You order a 3/8, 10,700 pound rated overhead lifting sling, and they don't have any 3/8, so they send you 5/16 with a workload of 5,700 pounds. That's not the same thing. That's dangerous AF. Next, I'm an architect that manages about $1.5 billion in construction, and the shortages of HVAC equipment and electrical equipment are becoming such an issue that they have daily meetings to decide how to get the products they need. We are often having to buy premium products just to meet lead time demands. I'm telling you, if you need to get stuff, the window of opportunity to get stuff is closing. And if you've already gotten plenty of stuff, you need to transition from consumer, from I buy things to survive, to producer. I produce things to survive. Okay, my food storage talks to me when I walk out on the porch. That's pretty cool. You have to start making that transition, even if it's a tiny little garden. And again, I'm telling you, get it while you can. Everything, get it while you can. Let's see. It's getting worse by the week, and soon construction sites will start shutting down. The Ford plant near me randomly shuts down for weeks at a time due to shortages, and every time this happens, they lay off hundreds of line workers. The latest shutdown was due to a lack of tires for the vehicles. This is noticeably affecting local businesses as well. My wife is in logistics for a hitch and ramp supplier in Michigan. The supply chain issues have been so sporadic and volatile this past year that they have decided to cut their monthly purchases of product from $20 million per month to just $10 million per month. The company is starting to hurt bad due to supply chain issues and are also trying to cut back spending. Sales are also plummeting. Next, I would recommend everyone get their heating systems checked and inspected this summer and get what they need ASAP. The supplies and inventory will probably not make it past October. I still have customers waiting on heating parts from last winter, and AC supplies and equipment are going fast. International. I work for a major Canadian trucking insurance company. We do business across Canada and the USA. Our rate changes for this year have just been announced, and they're going up by 15 to 25%. Compare this to a 5% increase for all types last year. At our annual employee status meeting, the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, who tried to be lighthearted, nevertheless said that due to a variety of factors, including inflationary pressures, our long-haul trucking business is shrinking, and they expect to barely do better than in 2020, which was our worst year in almost a decade. Looking at the graphs, which were included, but he did not directly address, their projections are that the long-haul business will shrink from 17 million to less than 7 million. So that's 40%, a 60% reduction, and possibly as low as 5 million. That's a 30% reduction. Well, a 70% reduction, leaving a 30% of the whole. On one of the slides that was meant to show more details regarding the business finances, actually excluded information from the trucking slide, showing only the historical data and not this year's projections, which were included in all our other business lines. In previous years, they would always go into details and reassure people that things are going well. This year, they skimmed the presentation, changed the slides quickly, and tried to enact a comedy show instead of presenting actual information. And lastly, I live in southwest Scotland under the airspaces used by the Royal Air Force for flight training school, flying out of RAF Valley. I have seen more sorties over the last 3 months than I have seen in the last 3 years, mostly in the Hawk, but we do see AC-130s in the A400 and the Eurofighters on occasion as well. And that is your intel for today, Bear Nation. If you're new here, subscribe and ring the little bell icon. If you're not new here, share this out with somebody that needs to see it. You know how to support the show, patreon.com. There's a link in the description of every video. It's $5 a month. It's the best $5 you can spend on the internet. And it's not an I love me, you should love me too page. It is chock full of value. There's over 2,500 exclusive pieces of content there. New stuff added every day. RefugeMedical.com is our company. Best first aid kits on the planet. If you can find a better one, I'll buy it from you. But I ain't worried about it because they don't exist. Handmade, made in America, guaranteed forever. 43 lives saved to date on all continents. I'm sorry, on 4 continents with all branches of the U.S. Armed Forces. There is stuff in stock. There are Red Bear minimums in stock. There are SOBs in black, multicam, and Ranger green in stock. If you want an SOB kit, a small of the back kit for your war belt, today's the day. They won't be there tomorrow. Adventure kits are in stock. Max and Stomps, which are mass casualty kits and SEAL Team Operational Medical Packs, aka a hospital on your back, are in stock. The Crash and Smash kits are in stock. All the buckets are in stock. The wound care bucket, the birthing bucket, postpartum bucket, all that's in stock, as well as some components are in stock. So if you need a good first aid kit to not die, and if you're thinking, well, yeah, I don't know, maybe, if you are currently breathing and there is blood inside of your body, you need a good first aid kit. If you're not currently breathing and or there's no blood inside of your body, why are you watching YouTube? That doesn't make any sense. So, RefugeMedical.com is where you get the best kits on planet Earth. And for the best training for tactical medicine, RefugeTraining.com. We are in North Dakota training currently. And my training guys are badass. They do a really good job. And I hear that from everybody. Everybody from soccer moms to Green Berets. And that's not an exaggeration. So, if you're a Green Beret, come to class. If you're a soccer mom, come to class. Truck driver, school principal, warehouse worker, accountant, architect, your mag, your team, your tribe, your crew. Windows of opportunity for training are closing as well. We're getting booked up, and I imagine in the coming year or so, national travel will become non-permissive. It'll be cost prohibitive. So, if you're anywhere near Waco, Texas, go to Waco. If you're anywhere near Philly, that's as far north and as far east as we are gonna go. So, you should come to the Philly class. There's a few slots left there. Classes up in Dallas. Classes up. There's a couple of slots left in Tell City, Indiana. Should go to that. RefugeTraining.com. Phenomenal instruction. I guarantee it. If you're unhappy after you come to class, you email me directly, and I will take money out of my wallet and give it back to you. I've never had to do that. That should be an indicator. So, with that, we appreciate y'all. Y'all have a blessed Shabbat. Stay frosty. The world's weird, but don't let it rob you of your joy. Fear nothing but the Lord your God, Yahweh your Elohim. Read the book. Do what it says. We win in the end. It's just going to get a little stupid out there in between now and then. Bless y'all.